Cincinnati's ready for the Big 12. It was time for them.
I am fired up.
It's a blessing to be able to be in this league with y'all, putting on for UC.
Cincinnati, a basketball school for...
And there he goes! Touchdown! Bearcats! Raquama again! Another slam inside!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GoBeercats Podcast. I'm Brandon. This one's easy today. Darin's down there. And right from the jump, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, which hopefully you are, we have Ace Edwards back from the Aggieville Alleycats. We did a introduction show with these guys over the summer where they broke down everything that we needed to know for K-State on our summer road trip series. So we're doing things a little bit different here for this episode. We are first going to break down, we're going to preview the women's basketball game coming up this Saturday, a pretty big matchup for the Bearcats as they take on number 11 Kansas State in the first ever Big 12 matchup, Big 12 game. Luckily, we get it at home here. Unfortunately, is against a really good Kansas State team, which why we have Ace here to break it down for us. Darin, I'll ask you first. It's the day after Christmas when we're recording this. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right. Always good to see the folks. Great gifts, great family moments. Real blessed to have a good holiday.
Good stuff as always. I got my Baby Yoda hat on here. Thought I was still feeling festive. I still got another Christmas to come this weekend, so I'm still in the holiday season here. Ace, how about you, sir? Welcome back to the show. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Thank you. First off, thank you for having me on again. The summer episode was a blast where we ended it talking about the tailgate tractor, which I didn't end up seeing this year. Oh. But yeah, I had a great, holiday season. It's nice to come back home. Me and my co-host are in law school right now. So it's always nice to come home and not have to think about that at all.
Absolutely. I know I'm working on my master's, and this break of classes have been glorious. Not looking forward to it starting it off again. So I know exactly what you're talking about there, Ace. So this is the GoBeercats podcast. We're going to drink some beers while we talk sports here, and of course, time for a beer. I'm sipping on this one here from HighGrain Brewing, which is a local brewery, one of the local breweries here. New England IPA, Enigma hopped. I don't know what that means, but it looks pretty tasty here this evening. Darin, how about you? What are you sipping on? I see it already.
Old Faithful, yeah. Absolutely.
I got the Cincy Light pint glass, so we're connected that way. Of course, this, though, Time for Beer, brought to you by the Delhi Liquor Store. They have you covered not only with a great beer selection, with new beer drops coming almost every day, but everything you need for a great tailgate, holiday party, New Year's party, whatever it may be. Wine, liquor, cigars, they got it all. Be sure to check them out, and certainly appreciate the sponsorship from them. And I know the Wednesday before Christmas, some lucky bourbon hunters got quite the treat in around Cincinnati and from the liquor store. So we'll be sipping on this as we go here, Ace. The women's team, and Darin, you can chime in here with me here. Darin and I have been paying more close attention to them this season. It's a team that kind of feels like there's no real expectations because we have a new coach, we have some new players, we have some really good players, 1,000-point scorer and everything, but it's kind of like we're playing with house money. So to sit here at 8-3 going into the Big 12 play, it feels like they're in a really good spot. The only 3 games that they've lost this season actually are to teams that are ranked in the top 20, that being Louisville, Colorado, and NC State. So that's, they've maybe, are we a good team? Not quite an elite team yet. Top 25 it seems to be, but certainly some things to learn here about the team as the Big 12 play starts. I just kind of, from you, sort of give us your feelings around the team. You said it was probably your favorite team at K-State right now. What's the mood and the vibe as the like we said, they're number 11 right now.
Yeah, the vibes around the K-State women's team, or some people call them the Midi Cats, we call them the women's basketball team. They've been really, really high even before the season. Connor and I were really big champions of the team even before the season, like even into the summer, because we knew that this was by far, probably pound for pound, the most talented team across all of K-State, like relative to obviously up-down competition. But it's been an amazing season, only one loss on the year, and that was a neutral site game up against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. And I will stand by the fact that Caitlin Clark is probably the best women's college basketball player to ever play. So losing to her, there is no shame in that, especially when you go 2-1 against her and beat her at home in a shoddily refereed game, which that's neither here nor there. But it's also really good that you mentioned that Cincinnati is also a team that you mentioned had very low expectations going in. So, counter question on your own show is like, how do you feel about the expectations? Obviously only losing to Colorado, NC State, and Louisville, all three are going to be, tournament teams. And some of them, I believe NC State is ranked even higher in terms of analytics than they are in polls.
Lead us off, Darin. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, obviously, when you have a new coaching regime, you have expectations, or low expectations, I would say. It's about getting the culture right. Getting will the team stay intact when a new coach comes in? I mean, she brought in a few transfers to help out. So far, Katrina Merriweather seems like she's implementing her culture well. And not just that, they're playing really well for her. They had a pretty early test this year for someone who, would give them some trouble in Toledo. They're top MAC team, and from what I understand, a tournament team a few times and a good program. So seeing them bow that out, winning that 71-60 was a good sign of progression early in the season. 77-59 Louisville. It's Louisville at this point. Sometimes the talent gap in women's basketball is just there. But, for what it was good to see them, hang with them for a bit. So, all things considered, in year one, it seems like they're progressing well. And at this point, it becomes about, how strong they finish and where they stack up in, what's already a dominant basketball conference this year, and then seeing where they can go from there.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Big 12 has 4 women's teams ranked in the Big 12 right now. I know, of course, Kansas State, I think Baylor, TCU, and West Virginia, who we play as the second game for us after Kansas State. So 4 teams ranked. I mean, that's not bad at all. I think the team, like I've watched, I was at the Xavier game. I watched the holiday tournament where they got beat twice in a row and then ended up beating Kentucky in the final round. I think they play an exciting brand of basketball. They look to push it up and down the floor. They have good size, people who can move the ball and finish around the rim. So I think, kind of like what I said earlier, it's like they're just playing with house money. See what they can accomplish year one under Merriweather and go forward from there. One thing I like about them a lot, though, is we got the 3 losses there, but all of our other games, they've, in my mind, I think we should win these games, and they've won all of those. They had the one scare the other night against Southern Indiana where they came back and UC only won by 2. But so far, they've taken care of the business that they should take care of, which is a good sign as well. As far as players, Ace, who we should watch out for on Saturday, I know I'm trying to talk my wife into going to the game, but if not, if we're watching it on ESPN Plus or whatever, who should I be looking out for? Who should Bearcats fans be looking out for in a K-State jersey that's, obviously making some noise for almost a top 10 team?
Yeah, this team, I'm not going to say it begins and ends with one player, but it's certainly one of the most dominant players in the country, and that's number 50, Ioka Lee, the 6'6" center who averaging 20.8 points a game and 8.2 rebounds. So
Wow.
it is whenever Yoki is on her game, there is very little that anyone can do to stop her, even if you have comparable size. Because we played a Jackson State team earlier this year that, among several other things or some things that they lacked, the number one thing that they had was size. They had height and they had length. It didn't matter. Ioka Lee still just bullied them. And it's not even like you can hack a Shacker because she's like an 80% free throw shooter. So like whenever Yoki is on her game, it is nearly impossible to stop her. And then you have the two earlier in the season, we kind of called them the three horsewomen, and right behind Ioka Lee is the twin guards, not the twin guards. We literally have a pair of twin guards in the Glenn twins, but Serena Sundell and Gabby Gregory. Serena Sundell is averaging, 9.5 points a game, 4.8 assists per game. So she's more of the efficiency gal, where she's going to make all the shots that you really expect her to and facilitate the offense really well. Gabby Gregory is the hot and cold shooter this year, which is weird because last year she was the model of consistency. But whenever and she seems to show up in the clutch moments. She hit a few clutch threes up against Iowa the first time. Those are the main three, but honestly, going even deep into the bench, you have a lot of really good players. The Glenn twins play defense that can barely make you breathe. And then you have two Louisville transfers in, Ziana Walker, who's a redshirt freshman, and Amani Lester, both contributing as well. And that's not even like there are so many contributing names to this roster where it's not even, you have your starting five, but you have no depth. No, top to bottom, you even have true freshmen contributing. And if you watched any of this is not an exaggeration. If you watched the men's March Madness last year, watching Marquise Noel for K-State make some ridiculous passes at a small height, we have a true freshman doing that right now. And her name is Taryn Sides. She's 5'6", 5'7", and I believe she leads the country or is one of the best in the country in assist to turnover ratio. So top to bottom, this is a really solid team that in some analytics, I believe, ranked our top 5 as opposed to their 11th ranking. So it's a really good team. And I think this is going to be a really good opening slate for both teams to see, is K-State legit? Because last year they sort of had this really fast run out the gate where they blow out Clemson in an in-season tournament by 60 and beat Iowa in the pre-conference play, and then sort of fell apart and ended up being an NIT team towards the back end of the year. And obviously with a new head coach at Cincinnati, you're trying to think, okay, she's exceeded expectations. She's 8-3. How much of that is competition? Because you've lost to some really, really good squads. K-State has beat Iowa, North Carolina. Those are the two marquee victories. But yeah, this is a really, really interesting game on the women's side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what it comes down to for me, just where these two teams are, like you said, you have top to bottom, just a complete team. It sounds like, for UC, it's, where do they stack up? How good can they play? How long can they stay in the game? And if they can stay in the game, can they, sneak out a sucker punch and win? For K-State, can they bury a team that is going to at least try their hardest to scrap with them and pull them down to their level? That's where I find this matchup interesting.
Very much so, because I know we do have some height on the team that Meriwether brought in. I know we have a younger post player. I think she's like 6'4". So we have some height. So, but to hear that number 50 has been that dominant, whether the team, whoever the team they play against, whoever they can throw at her. So that's definitely something I want to look forward to see how the Bearcats combat that. Is it throwing different looks defensively? Is it just throwing two bodies at her, or what it is? So that is definitely one thing I'm looking out here for. Ace, can you tell me, like, what are your thoughts on the women's side of things, just as the Big 12 so far? I know K-State, I think were they picked like 2 or 3 in the preseason poll. I know that they were up there, but just like
because I think it went. I think
a-
it went Texas, Baylor, KU, and then us.
Okay. All right. So just as a as we get ready to start conference play, how do you think that that holds up right now, or would you agree that Texas still looks to be the best in the conference?
Well, I can tell you I have to get my digs in where I can. KU is not that, but Texas and Baylor are always going to be the class of the Big 12. Well, Texas not next year, but those two teams are always going to be at the top of the Big 12 just because they're so sound in everything they do. Baylor is the only team that I've seen shut down Yoki twice, which both happened 2 years ago because Yoki was injured last year. They're the only team that I've seen her do it twice in the same season. Texas has done it twice, but across multiple seasons. But I'd say the surprise team has been TCU because everyone expected TCU to be god awful this year. And they're actually pretty good with some, similar to UC, where they're coming in, they have a brand new coach instilling a brand new culture, but they got some high impact transfers coming in. So TCU is on, I believe they're 25th or 24th in the country. So they're on like that bubble range of being, one of the elite teams. Now, the counter argument to that is, have they played anybody? The answer is no. But I think that top has sort of balanced out. I think Oklahoma was 5th there. I think everywhere else has sort of balanced out to be correct. If I'm remembering correctly, UC was ranked lower than I probably would have done. And I'm not saying that just because I'm on a UC pod.
I think they are last or next to last. I think maybe Central Florida was below us.
Okay. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I'd say they're pressing for maybe top half. Just I get it, new coach and stuff like that, but I think that sometimes the new coach thing gets sort of overrated in the polls, but what are you going to do? But in terms of the top of the Big 12 for the women's game, I think it's sort of shaken out how everyone expected it to, except for KU. I think everyone expected KU to be a lot better because they kind of caught a heater at the end of last year.
Darin, if we catch some K-State fans watching the podcast or listening to it because we have on Ace, if you had to pick a player or two for them to watch out for on Saturday? I'm guessing I could pick one of them out for you, but who opposing fans, if they're listening in, who as for the Bearcats, who should they look out for?
Obviously Julian Hayes. To start off the top of the dome, just reached 1,000-point threshold not too long ago. Maya Jackson, our guard. Outside of that, you wonder if they shut them down. What's the strategy going forward in the game? Again, new coach, so they're still building out the roster. Obviously you have your trusted starters, but then that back half, these are people you're developing and instilling in this. So you wonder who else you're going to go to at that point if things go south for them. But they are the motor of this team. They are what makes it click and go. So I'd look out for those two. Malaya Williams as well, just to keep an eye on her. But the two I've mentioned formerly are for sure who you want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how the role players, if K-State jumps out to a big lead, and you see if they're effectively shutting down Hayes and Jackson, who can step up and at least keep it within shouting distance, or keep UC at pace. Clarissa Craig is one of those 6'3" forward. We have another girl 6'4", so what can they do defensively to make some noise? So that will be interesting. I will certainly be tuned in on Saturday for that. Ace, you got anything else for us here as far as the women's side of things that you think we should know about the team, or some good nuggets for us I got a couple other off-topic questions for you as we try to get you out of here.
Two things. Firstly, a big marker of this K-State team has been their defense. There are times that, when they are playing in man-to-man, you're screwing about it. And there are times it borders on bullying, which of course, as a K-State fan, I kind of enjoy, but there are times that it's sort of it's bullying. Ziana Walker and Jalen Glenn are probably the two best defenders because they just don't let you breathe. Jalen Glenn led the Big 12 in steals last year and yet somehow didn't make the all-defensive team. But the other thing is sort of a way that K-State, the way to beat this K-State team is to basically just get on the boards, like find a way to box out Yoki and make them shoot outside shots. Because that's where K-State has been most inconsistent this year is outside shooting. You have some games where, and it's mostly down to Gabby Gregory, who we treat as our main outside threat, where if she's on a heater, you're screwed and there's nothing you can do. But if she's having an off night, you really just kind of let her do her own thing, because if she doesn't have it, she doesn't have it, which is, like I said, weird because she always had it last year. But yeah, the way that K-State loses this game, and just about any game, is if they can't establish any sort of outside shooting presence and the other team forces them to, basically, is the way to defeat them. The problem is that it's really, really hard to do that when you have one of the most dominant basketball players in the country.
Very good. Very good stuff. Saturday, K-State at UC. We'll see if I can get there, but I know we'll be tuned in. Otherwise, if not, before we get you out of here, Ace, I do want to ask you a couple other questions. First, we'll shift gears completely here. I know that K-State on Thursday, the football team, I should say, plays is NC State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. How badly do you want that Pop-Tart Bowl trophy? Because I think it's immediately one of the best that I've ever seen when they unveiled that. It's all over social media today.
There are 4-star recruits that I have wanted less than that trophy. Like they're genuine, like 4 to 5-star Kansas kids that I have wanted less than that trophy in veneer.
Fair enough.
Love it. It's now, I don't know. You can't really see from the pictures here. And I mean, this is the only way that it would be even better than what it actually is. If I can, I'm trying to share my screen as I'm talking here. But is this thing actually toast the Pop-Tarts? Because that would be the only way that this could possibly be better. Is if behind the football there, you just pull down the lever and it toasts them and they pop back up. I don't know if it works like that, but if you guys win Thursday and you get a chance to see this, you'll have to let me know if it's actually functional.
I have a few friends that'll know, that'd be able to give me the answer to that.
Good stuff. Last thing I want to know, we don't, for as far as men's basketball, we don't play you guys for a while. I think we only have you on the schedule once, and it's further down the line here towards the end of the season. What's the mood around the men's basketball team right now? I don't know if you'd call it controversy or some sort of issues was happening there with one of the players, and I don't know, maybe you can give me some insight on that as well. But in general, maybe even not considering off the court stuff, what's happening on the court for the men's basketball team?
We call it a lot of things, not a lot of things I could say in church though. But in terms of how the men's team has sort of shaken out this year, I'd say that the number one way that I would personally describe it, and the way that the fans probably feel, is disappointing. And it isn't entirely based off of Naquan Tomlin and that entire situation, and how a lot of K-State fans want an entirely new university president because of it. It's not just because of that. It's coming off of looking mediocre in your wins and then losing against Nebraska, who, granted, have looked conscious, but K-State shouldn't be losing to a team that barely looks conscious at home. So I think there's a lot of angst, and granted, it was a decent response beating Wichita State, but I think the first word that I would use to describe the men's team this year is probably disappointing. And it's not because they don't have anyone who can play. They have Arthur Kaluma, the forward. They have Tyler Perry, who just seems to make good shots at random times, specifically clutch moments. But, it just hasn't really come together. Running a new offense, running a 5-out, it just hasn't come together. But at the same time, I feel like I was saying the same thing last year, except for without the new offense part, because K-State didn't really hit their stride until they hit conference play. They just played a bunch of worse schools. But still, this year, maybe we're spoiled from the miraculous run last year to the Elite Eight. Maybe we're spoiled. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're letting things outside of the specific team itself distract us. But the vibes aren't great. They're not horrid. They're not atrocious. They're not Bruce Weber days awful. But they're not great.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on there. We'll see if Kansas State can't hit their stride again as Big 12 play starts and things get super interesting, because like everyone knows, there's no off night, and you gotta bring it, because it's the seventh circle of hell as far as conference play goes. Ace, I appreciate your time here, sir. Love the preview. First time we've done a women's games preview, so love the excuse me, the insight there, and definitely gave us some stuff to look out for. And on Thursday night, I hope you are eating your favorite flavor of Pop-Tarts in celebration of the bowl win. All right. We will see you, good sir. Darin, that was good stuff.
Good stuff, for sure.
Good stuff from Ace. Definitely a lot of things to look forward to. Like I said, I'm gonna try to go to the game. I don't know if I can do that yet. I got some stuff I gotta check off of my to-do list before that happens while I'm still on break, but hopefully we'll see here. On Friday, the men's team plays, Darin. The men's team plays Evansville in a thrilling matchup, I'm sure. It's the last bye game that we have before we go to BYU. And I don't know about you. I don't think we've talked since we beat Merrimack and we beat Stetson. But as of right now, I'm pretty bored with the out-of-conference schedule for the men's team. I am bored, and I don't know if I should be, because these last two games have not been won in convincing fashion. But I'm ready for games that matter here.
Yeah, I'd say Merrimack, we just played above them, as we should have, a little bit more so than Stetson. Stetson, it started out sort of as those things we have, those typical things we have anxiety about this team. Slow start, letting the team hang around that shouldn't be hanging around. And then even if you start to kind of pull away, you're never quite pushing them out of the picture. Obviously, win's a win, but it doesn't fill you with joy when you see things that you're trying to patterns that you're trying not to recognize.
Yeah, Merrimack, it just seemed like we were sleepwalking through it. Just get this game over with, type of thing. Stetson, they had some shooters, they had some guys that could play, and like you said, we just never put them away, never hit the gas, and they hung around. And just with Evansville here coming up, I'm just like, let's get this over with, and let's get on to Big 12 play. Definitely a game that I'm going to watch. I will, be invested in, because it's the game that we'll be playing, right? But it's around the time that, the day that we lost to Dayton, like, I started thinking, like, this scheduling philosophy was a swing and a miss. I think it was, it was Coach Miller told us, it was to, save trips. It was to keep legs fresh. It was, to get ready for Big 12 play, and, this, that, and the other. And they had all their reasons, like, ironed out. And then I think, that was echoed throughout the athletic department by the AD and passed along to Dan Hoard and, all these things. But I don't agree with it now. Like it made sense to me when I heard it. Okay, they're trying to stay fresh. Travel is a new thing in this conference, whatever. But there has to be some teams in between Merrimack and Xavier Dayton that we could have found to play, or even teams that were better than that. The philosophy of not testing this team outside of Xavier and Dayton, I think was the wrong way to go for where the fan base is at with expectations for this team.
Yeah. And sometimes schedules it's college scheduling. So like a lot of this stuff is made, sometimes well in advance, sometimes right off the cusp. It's in retrospect, it's hard to look at when you lose to Xavier and Dayton, because those are in-state rivals in the region. And you wonder, should we have been tested more before that? But these schedules aren't too unlike what you see for other teams. Outside of our traveling, we have not really traveled much. Is probably more the head scratcher for us. Of course, when you have a number of bye games, you're not going to really travel anyway. But yeah, it leads a little bit head scratcher. I wonder how much our tune changes if we're 12-0.
Yeah, then you can say we didn't need to be tested or whatever. It's it's going to be different. But if you look at Merrimack, in the net rankings, they're 170, 178.
Yeah.
I'm sure scrolling up the list here to the 100s, I'm sure where are we? Well, Evansville is 92. They're a much better team than Merrimack. Watch out for them on Friday.
Yeah.
That's something I just learned here in real time. But even like Duquesne's having a good year. They're from Pennsylvania. They're 79. Not a huge, well-known sort of brand, but there just had to be some other teams here that we could have tested ourselves with. I guess if this philosophy comes to be in the future, I will not let myself forget how the beginning of this season has turned out. Hey, this is like a red flag for the season. Xavier will be the absolute best team that we play, no matter where Xavier is that year. If this is our lineup for out of conference, I don't know. Maybe I've had too much time to think about this, or maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle there. But I know we got a long road to hoe here in the Big 12, as that we have one game left that we should win before we start traveling around the Big 12. So I don't know. Depends on how badly we beat Evansville on Friday. I guess will determine my outlook going into conference play. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I'm just not that. I don't know. It's just a wait and see. Not that excited at the moment. I don't know why.
Yeah, casual competition.
Yeah,
I get where you're coming from in that respect.
Casual competition.
Yeah. Obviously, you when you schedule these teams, you hope that that they're as big in basketball schools as their reputation gives them. But sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. I'd argue Dayton, Howard, and Georgia Tech have probably been our toughest competition. As far as quality so far.
Yeah, you know what? Even that, you bring up Howard. Even play more of these games on the road.
Yeah.
Howard really Cintas is 4 miles away. It's hostile for sure, but those being the only two true road games that you play in the entire out of conference schedule is definitely a red flag. So even if you play, I think next year they play Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech. They did a home and home there. But yeah, getting out of Fifth Third a little bit and being tested. Howard, a great example that you bring up. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out as we move into conference play here. We are dealing with some injuries. I haven't really heard the past couple games. I haven't heard one way or the other. Aziz was battling his back. CJ Frederick was battling a hamstring. He even came out of the game against Stetson and got worked on. Seamus was
still a little banged up from the car.
Banged up from getting hit by a freaking car. I think was there someone else? I thought there were 4, maybe just 3 that are hurting a little bit there. But still, hopefully, the week break gave him some time off, some time to heal, and then not quite a week before we go out to BYU. So hopefully can figure some things out there. Yeah, it is about a week.
Hopefully Lincoln Assassin can stay healthy, Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. We didn't even talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. We'll just refer to him as the assassin and leave it at that.
Yes. That was amazing.
Hopefully he stays healthy. So I mean, that Stetson game was a little disappointing on the run. You wonder how much you attribute to some injuries on that and being beat up a little bit and working some new talent in. Now we have a full complement in the stretch. I mean, you did have a career game. From Skillings. 29.
Yeah.
So
yeah, buddy. He had a heck of a game. I thought Millie had a heck of a game too. Against Stetson. They should have given him the ball even more. He was a force down low. But you're right, Dan was doing it in about every way that Dan knew how to go get buckets. That was exciting to watch for sure.
I mean, that's good. I mean, this we asked a few shows back, where's it all going to come from? So when you have guys banged up, it's good to see some of their guys step up. Not so much Skillings, but see some other guys step up and get it done with a bit of a rotated squad. So maybe it's going to pay dividends down the road. I think this team is also still trying to find their identity. Also,
sure.
I don't know how I feel about that. 12 games into the season, still trying to search for identity. I mean, it's been a little weird, obviously, given the legal troubles of getting this roster completed. But you hope that at least by the middle of Big 12 play, they have, I won't say the middle, but the first third of Big 12 play, they have a little bit more of an idea of who they are when they look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for as well. I definitely would like to know the answer to that question sooner than later. And I think a lot of Bearcats fans would as well. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. It's Evansville Friday, and then the next Saturday, late tip-off at 10 p.m. here in Cincinnati time for that BYU game, our first one there. So will be fun nonetheless. We'll see if for that BYU game, I got to talk to you a little bit more about that. We'll see if I'm trying to do something a little extra here on the Catskeller Social Club YouTube channel. So one, if you're still listening here with us, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss what we're doing for that first Big 12 game. And stay tuned for some other things happening as well. Darin, the last thing I want to talk to you about is football, of course. National Signing Day has came and it has went, and I feel it was a Wednesday, I believe, this past Wednesday, and it was the last day of school for me, and then we had a game that night afterwards. So I literally I have still no idea what happened on National Signing Day. Hopefully you can give me some insight here as to what happened. Big Game Boomer said we were like one of the top 10 losers of National Signing Day. I don't know what constituted that. Well,
I don't listen to Big Game Boomer just because he's a little.
That was my next thing here. How much stock we should put into his polls or whatever. But give me something here. Give me your takeaways, your feelings. I feel as though there wasn't a whole lot of chatter about it on the Discord or even Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I mean, we're looking at like the middle of the pack for our recruiting class overall. At least as far as the mighty rankings go. I think we signed everybody we were expected to sign.
Okay.
Samaj Jones is still here, so that everybody's really high on him as a QB or the QB of the future.
Okay.
Number 39 nationally at QB. A little undersized, but athletic and makes a lot of plays and is just a gamer. Daniel James is our highest rated recruit at 91 in the top 300. So the message board fans and social media people love their almighty numbers. So it's always fun to get a top 300 and one of those elusive 90s that everyone's always lusting after. But no, I see him going after some needs for the future. Building a little bit of that wide receiver room up, getting to some general athletes. Obviously, we'll find a spot for them. Wherever they you see fit. Some interior alignment. Well, I think one interior alignment actually. And then 2 tackles. So building a little bit of that line depth as well. Getting a little bit taller, getting a little bit longer at that position. And then so far we have 8 transfers as it stands. Jaden Perry, long snapper out of Indiana State. Armani Arnold, the Vandal. He's a cornerback. George Combs. Wow, I keep saying Combs. I said Combs last week too. George Gums. At the edge rusher coming out of NIU. And then Tony Johnson, wide receiver, FAU. Kai Stokes, safety, Ohio State. Evan Pryor, running back, Ohio State. Michael Coleman, D-line out of Eastern Michigan, and then of course the great Brendan Sorsby out of Indiana at QB. So obviously they said they wanted to get around 15 or so portal guys was the number on the street.
Okay.
Obviously we hit a bit of a dead period for reaching out to those guys. So that'll resume here again in the moment once school gets back in. I know grad transfers are still available to be talked to if I understand correctly. So I'm not up to date on targets. I haven't looked recently at who they've been looking at or who they've offered over the holiday break here. But that's kind of where we stand so far. We have there's been a big emphasis put on our recruiting department and having as people generally call it, a general manager in that. It's interesting because people look at SAT and they say, oh no, CEO, head coach, which even when he got here, I didn't think that was inherently a bad thing. I'm able to separate the type of coach from past experiences. I think there may be something there just with how the game has changed with college football. You have a big emphasis on your recruiting department and you allocate, guys to do things for you on that front. Obviously your coaches are still making visits, but you got guys actually doing the targeting as well who aren't coaches, who are putting together those boards and having these departments of your program. And college and signing day is, just a little bit different too. I used to call that a college football national holiday. And it used to be the spring signing day. I mean, obviously it was the winter period. Now that, if you're signed, you're signed, because a lot of guys are graduating early from high school and coming in the winter semester or spring semester. Nowadays, the transfer portal is, kind of changed that as well. So you may not have as much emphasis as building up from the bottom. So it's changed a little bit, the buzz and the euphoria. I mean, I for one still love it, but it's definitely changed a little bit. And the fanfare isn't quite what it used to be. It's more about, okay, we'll see if these pieces work out, and you hope they do, and you hope you can develop them, but if they don't, there's other options at this point.
Darin, that's all I have for us today, man. It's a loaded show here for sure. Certainly want to thank Ace for coming on, give us some insights. Definitely have plenty of football stuff to keep us entertained and tuned in for really all year round. And we'll see what the basketball Bearcats, ladies and men's, can do here in the coming weeks. I'm sure we'll have an episode next week before we jump into men's Big 12 play, and we'll see if we can't diagnose on whether or not we're ready for this gauntlet that is Big 12 basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think we're leading right into the CFP games on next week, so or this weekend. So that's going to be fun to watch. New Year's 6 bowl games.
Yeah, for sure. Almost forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good time.
All right, Darin. Well, I appreciate it, sir. I'll leave you with the same things I always leave you with. Cheers and go Bearcats.
Cheers. Go Bearcats.